Unbelievable moment revealed. Little girl asks CEO, "Are you my new daddy?" An inspiring transformation. The buzz of the corporate gathering buzzed like an electric storm, overwhelming Sarah's senses. She stood at the edge of the room, heart racing, teetering on the brink of two worlds. The voices of polished executives chirped around her, glimmers of champagne glasses reflecting a life she barely understood. For a moment, she felt light and free, like she might fade into the background and become someone else, someone worth more than just tips, someone beyond the weight of her exhaustion. Yet the weight of responsibility yanked on her shoulders. The urgency of work loomed like a shadow. Each tick of her watch reminded her of Emily, delicate and vulnerable, waiting for the moth of a mother to return home after the flame of ambition. This opportunity, as enticing as it seemed, weighed heavy against her desperate need to provide for her daughter, to shield her from the unfairness of life they both endured. Before she could breathe, the dilemma sunk deeper. Should she strive for unattainable dreams or cling to the everyday necessity of survival? At the diner, familiar faces offered her fleeting acceptance and emotional refuge. She could fold into the rhythm of the place, the same conversations swirling with laughter and camaraderie. But was this enough? The oppressive hum of potential reverberated in her chest, squeezing her heart as she recalled Emily's bright smile, her backbone in a world that often felt like too much to bear. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Just as the thought of turning away crossed her mind, a tingle of determination electrified her veins. Emily had cheered her on to seize the moment, reminding Sarah any path less walked could contain untold treasures. She knocked back the worries, closer to despair than she dared to admit. Taking a deep breath, she entered the lavish space where Jack, the affluent CEO, held court. Yet the sharp ambitions had dulled his heart, and Sarah sensed the gulf of emptiness that his wealth had birthed. The flush of discomfort surged through her as she struggled with her surreal place amidst glass towers and cherry wood accents. Glancing around, the laughter felt hollow, raising doubts in Sarah's mind. Suddenly, a small figure wobbled into the room, her daughter's bright eyes sparkling with unfiltered curiosity. "Mom, I have to see," Emily exclaimed. But in that moment, apprehension clawed at Sarah's chest. "Stay close," she called, but her words merely grazed the air. The tension spiraled tighter as Emily approached Jack, eyes wide with wonder. "Are you my new daddy?" Her innocent query struck like lightning, leaving a charged silence rippling through the room. A collective gasp rose, shattering refined pretenses. Absolute horror coursed through Sarah's body as the realization hit. All eyes were now on her, two worlds colliding. Jack knelt to meet Emily's gaze, astonished yet moved. But what did it mean for Sarah? In this moment of vulnerability, the fear of judgment mixed with a surge of paranoia. She wanted to snatch Emily back, to shield her from this whirlwind. Yet there was something transformative budding between them, a fragile blossom amid the chaos. Her desperation clashed with a new hope. Caught in the gravity of that moment, Sarah felt the world recede. Now both she and Jack were faced with unexpected truths. Would he step away from the ruthless pursuits of the corporate world? Would she find the courage to redefine her own future? Uncertainty clouded her thoughts, an electric pulse racing through her, leaving her adrift with questions that might just reshape everything. The silence echoed painfully around Sarah as she stood frozen, a spectator to the collision of her dreams and fears. Emily's innocent question hung in the air, illuminating the chasm between her small world and the corporate giants that towered over her. Jack's eye held a glimmer of intrigue, but all Sarah could see was the lightning strike of vulnerability slicing through her protective facade. In having Emily here, she'd exposed her daughter to the very essence of the life she had fought so hard to climb out of. Her heart twisted with a mix of maternal instinct and the fierce desire for recognition. This was not a simple introduction. It was a plunge into unknown waters, challenging her comfort and testing her resolve. As Jack regarded Emily with curiosity, Sarah felt an electric spark of possibility intertwining with dread. "Let's not scare her, Sarah," Jack said, his tone softening as he rose from his knees, the formality of his suit juxtaposing with the warmth in his voice. Sarah felt a flicker of surprise mixed with inhibition. Was there a way for Emily to see beyond the surface of wealth and stature? Everyone here had their agendas, hidden motivations lurking just beneath the glitz. But amidst this storm of glamour, Jack's genuine demeanor held her gaze. "Mommy's just working," Emily replied, sounding unbelievably wise for her age. The way her voice bubbled up with innocence cut through Sarah's chaotic thoughts. She wanted to reach out and hug her daughter, to harbor her from this confusion, yet simultaneously felt the pull towards an extraordinary opportunity. She couldn't let her fear dictate the course of their lives. The weight of the moment pressed on Sarah, and she was suddenly engulfed in a crescendo of inner conflict. She could retake control of her narrative. She had stepped into this world, and now she needed to navigate it. With clenched determination, she stepped forward, her voice steady. "I'm here to provide for my daughter, Jack, but I refuse to let her be drawn into a game where emotions are bartered and traded." The room seemed to shift, the corporate smiles faltering for just a fraction of a second. Jack regarded her with unexpected respect, a new light flickering in his gaze. He stood taller, seeming to shed the very veneer that had defined him as merely a businessman. This exchange sparked something transformative in Sarah. Perhaps she was finding her voice after all. As the conversations around them began to stir back to mundane topics, Sarah realized her battle had only just begun. She caught sight of her reflection in a nearby glass. It was a face of a woman who had felt diminished, but was now awakening to her potential. With every instinct urging her to retreat, she understood she needed to engage. Who knew where this new path might lead? Emily tugged at her dress, pulling her back into the moment. "Can we go get ice cream later?" she asked, her eyes bright with hope. A smile broke through Sarah's apprehensive expression. There was joy in simplicity, something she was afraid had slipped too far from her grasp, but her daughter reminded her of it. Her heart pounded, a fresh wave of purpose washing away the earlier disillusionment. In the harsh light of the gathering, shadows of doubt flickered, but she felt an ember of ambition ignite. Would Jack and the others see her as an ally or merely another obstacle? As they exited the room, Sarah made the decision to lean into the discomfort, to transform noise into her symphony of strength. The night was still young, and surrounded by both challenge and unexpected support, she was ready to explore what lay ahead. She would find her footing, even if the path was uncharted. The moment to bend but not break had arrived, yet the lingering question of Jack's true intentions weighed heavily on her mind. Who could she trust in this environment, and what would their next encounter reveal? As the elevator doors closed, she braced herself for the coming tide of revelations. The elevator hummed gently as it descended, a mechanical heartbeat against the rapid pounding of Sarah's chest. She felt the air becoming thicker, the weight of unspoken words and expectations swirling around her. Emily swung happily, oblivious to the tension that had gripped her mother moments ago. As they emerged into the kaleidoscope of the lobby's ambient lights, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the numbing confines of her insecurities peel away like layers of old paint. "Mommy, are we going to meet more people like Mr. Jack?" Emily chirped, excitement lacing her voice. It was a simple question, but it sparked a cascade of thoughts inside Sarah. How much more of this world could she allow her daughter to see? For all the fears that had seeped into her heart, today perhaps there was a lesson in resilience that lay hidden in the heart of wealth and ambition, a lesson Emily deserved to witness firsthand, even if laced with caution. As Sarah guided Emily to the exit, she felt determination blossoming within her. She couldn't afford to remain a passive bystander. That much had become clear. The real challenge loomed, not just learning to navigate the world of high-stakes corporate dealings, but to forge her identity within it. What would she even represent in this arena? A mere mother or a professional? She needed to amalgamate both roles without compromising her values or Emily's innocence. A certain clarity washed over her, igniting thoughts of her own professional aspirations. Leaning heavily on her business acumen, the very skills she had honed over the years, she wrestled with the possibility of utilizing them again. The fire of ambition rekindled, lighting the path forward. She recalled Jack's expression, the flicker of respect in his eyes, and let it inspire her. They stepped outside to find a world shimmering like a promise. The evening air felt alive, imbued with the potential of new beginnings. As Sarah and Emily strolled towards the nearest ice cream parlor, the simple act of childlike delight reminded her to find joy amidst chaos. Each giggle from Emily rang like a bell, urging her to consider, could she find a collaborative spirit and use it to rise above the chasms of competition? The thought was intoxicating, but it also left Sarah vulnerable. She couldn't ignore Jack's presence or the implications of her admission. It was impossible to separate their worlds. What if he saw her as someone with potential, a partner in a field that was fraught with both danger and opportunity? Would she simply become an asset to be exploited, a pawn in someone else's game? The possibility wrapped around her throat like a noose, tightening as she pondered the risks. Speeding through the ice cream shop, Sarah ordered 2 cones, catching Emily's eyes light up upon receiving sprinkles on hers. Such innocence. What if she could blend these 2 worlds, showing her daughter that ambition and compassion could coexist? "Mommy, look!" Emily exclaimed as she skated off to a nearby table. The moment of joy seeped into Sarah's heart, grounding her amidst the swirling thoughts. Emily's laughter echoed, pulling her into the present. Just then, a familiar figure entered the shop. Jack, still clad in business attire, a look of intent focus on his face, stood scanning the room. He spotted them and approached, a hesitant smile breaking through his otherwise composed demeanor. As he drew nearer, Sarah felt an urgent twist of fate unfolding. She had a decision to make: allow this man to step closer into her life and her daughter's, or protect them both from yet another possible disappointment. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, and with Jack now filling the space between them, it was clear she couldn't evade him or the implications of their previous encounter any. The air crackled with possibilities, uncertainty coiling around them like vines. How would she respond when faced with the actual embodiment of the corporate world she so cautiously navigated? As he neared, Sarah steeled herself, uncertain yet intrigued. Could her initial anxiety transform into something worthwhile? And as his presence loomed before her, she understood one truth: the real challenge was about to begin. Jack approached their table with an easy smile, but Sarah could see the careful calculation behind his eyes. He extended a polite hand towards Emily, his demeanor respectful. "Hey there, I see someone's enjoying a special treat. What's your favorite flavor?" Emily's face lit up, her delight infecting the air around them. "Sprinkles," she declared, her excitement completely unfeigned in the face of a powerful stranger. Sarah couldn't help but feel a tingle of pride. Emily's natural charm was unguarded, a clean slate in a realm thick with pretense. Jack chuckled, and for a fleeting moment Sarah's tension ebbed. A part of her, desperate to connect with this world yet terrified of its intricacies, reminded herself that vulnerability could sometimes yield unexpected strength. She took a breath and introduced herself. "Sarah," she said, her voice steady despite the tumult beneath her calm facade. "Nice to meet you, Sarah, and you too, Emily." Jack's eyes softened at her daughter, but the moment he shifted his gaze back to Sarah, something intensified, an unspoken understanding passing between them. "I wanted to thank you from earlier. Your insights during the meeting?" Jack paused, measuring each word. "They really stood out. It's not every day I hear such fresh perspectives." Sarah's heart raced. It was a compliment, yes, yet it felt like a double-edged sword. What would following this compliment mean? Damn it, she wasn't looking for praise. She sought acknowledgement that founded a path to her goals, not a distraction. "I appreciate that, but it was just an observation." Her words came out with an edged certainty. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Just an observation? It takes courage to speak up in those settings. I admire that." His compliment weighed heavily, igniting a quiet determination within her, a flicker she had felt just moments before, waiting to surge. Did he see her as someone worthy of more than fleeting moments of attention? "So what do you do, Jack, besides charming people around the office?" Sarah asked, trying to keep the conversation light whilst subtly asserting her presence in this daunting landscape. "Engaging, I hope," he replied. His gaze anchored to hers, pulling her closer into this orbit she still felt reluctant to enter. "I manage project directions, coordination. It can be draining, but I thrive on the challenge." "So you embrace danger, too?" Sarah countered, the possibility of provocation flickering in her mind as they stood on the precipice of something. "Absolutely," Jack said, a hint of mischief dancing in his tone. "Without risk, where's the reward?" The exchange held an electric tension that pushed Sarah's boundaries in ways she hadn't anticipated. Here was someone who was both a peer and a potential mentor, a challenging ally she had only just met. With each word, the churning dread within gave way to renewed ambition. Jack embodied the thrill of the corporate world, and unknowingly, he was igniting her desire to reclaim that space for herself. But as they delved deeper into conversation, she caught a glimpse of Emily's wide eyes, innocent curiosity swirling with the profound sincerity. It dawned on her that her daughter's playful comments could unintentionally breach the boundaries Sarah had worked so hard to establish. Could Emily disrupt the delicate dance she and Jack were conceiving? "Mommy, is Mr. Jack going to help you at your job?" Emily asked, each syllable punctuated with the kind of hope only a child could muster. The innocence of the inquiry struck Sarah with a force she hadn't prepared for. The quiet tension snapped back into focus, the implications settled heavily like an anchor. She could feel the weight of Jack's gaze upon her as the words hung between them, demanding attention. The possibility of alliances, mentorship, or even support came to a head at that moment. How she navigated this encounter could define not just her professional landscape, but also how her daughter viewed ambition and teamwork. With Jack's voice softly reassuring, Sarah turned inward, questioning if she was brave enough to step into this new reality. Could she truly meld her roles as a mother and a rising professional? Jack leaned closer, an amused smile forming. "I suppose I could offer assistance if requested, but remember, it's all about what you're willing to make of those opportunities." Sarah felt the tension flicker into a resolve. The challenge suddenly felt invigorating. "Opportunity," she whispered to herself, mentally wrestling with the reality of that elusive concept. As she steeled herself in the face of everything that lay ahead, one question formed in her mind, urging her onward. Was she ready to confront her own ambitions head-on, allowing herself to be seen, both as a mother and a professional, without apology? The answer felt like an impending storm, and as Emily played nearby, Sarah prepared herself for the waves ahead. The future was unsteady, but she was no longer looking for reassurance. This was her moment to begin defining who she could become. And amidst the flickers of uncertainty and ambition, she felt the heat of another confrontation looming, one that could force her to grapple with her greatest fears, the conflict between her desire for independence and the risks that came with it. She realized the real challenge ahead wasn't just Jack. It was confronting the person she was always meant to be. The moment hung delicately in the air, ripe with potential yet thick with anxiety. Sarah felt the rush of heat bloom across her cheeks as the innocent question reverberated between them. Jack's gaze flickered, a mix of surprise and intrigue shadowing his features, while Emily, blissfully unaware of the tension she had sparked, to twirl a strand of her hair, waiting for an answer. Silly question, right? Jack chuckled lightly, but the smile he wore didn't quite reach his eyes. Sarah felt an overwhelming urge to shield herself and her daughter from the complexities unraveling at that moment. She could see the ramifications ripple through the small bubble they had created, transforming a simple gathering into a multifaceted web of implications. Forcing a laugh, Sarah added, "She's just teasing, trying to get a rise out of all the serious adults." But the seriousness of Emily's words hung in the balance. A strange disconnection tugged at Sarah. Was she ready to face the scrutiny of her choices? Would Jack interpret their interaction as a view into her chaotic world? Jack's expression softened, yet in that moment, Sarah was acutely aware of the duality of her life, how her role as a mother entwined with her aspirations as a professional. She wasn't just a rising star, she was a guard against the weight, a brigade commander waging war on her insecurities. If she was to excel in her career, she had to own every facet of herself, including the maternal part she sometimes hesitated to display. "Children say the darndest things," Jack said easily, returning his focus to Emily, who still looked up at him with wide, earnest eyes. That light-hearted meeting of worlds lifted some weight off Sarah's shoulders, yet it also felt like an awakening. Maybe this mingling of roles wasn't as antagonistic as she had assumed. She took a measured breath, the hesitant resolve building again. It was her prerogative to craft the definition of success, a blend of ambition and motherhood rather than one at the expense of the other. "Actually, Emily's perceptive," she replied, looking directly into Jack's attentive gaze, gauging his response as her heart raced. "Sometimes the best partnerships involve unexpected connections. I've learned that if we embrace vulnerability, we not only grow ourselves, but invite growth in others." The words materialized like a commitment to herself, an affirmation that she could expand her boundaries. Jack studied her, an intensity igniting in his eyes as if he had grasped the nuance of her statement beyond a mere remark. That's a strong outlook. It can be intimidating to embrace those connections, but they can certainly lead to significant growth. His voice turned contemplative, almost inviting. As their conversation continued, Sarah felt the busy world around them fade into a blur. Each exchange leaned inward, peeling away layers of pretense, revealing something more genuine. Jack's insights propelled her forward, igniting the spark of ambition within her, while Emily's innocent curiosity grounded them, reminding Sarah of the delicate balance she had to master. She found herself leaning towards Jack's confident demeanor, drawing inspiration from his willingness to explore complicated situations positively. This was a different kind of mentorship, one that linked professional growth with personal realization. Suddenly, the notion of vulnerability felt less like a risk and more like a bridge, an opportunity to forge connections that mattered. "Maybe you could help me navigate some of these conversations," Sarah proposed, her voice rising ever so slightly, hinting at something grander beneath the surface. She felt exhilarated. This was not just about networking. It could be a partnership in the making. "Is that an official request?" Jack quipped, an impish grin revealing a playful side that had been previously masked. "Consider it a proposition. Sarah replied with newfound confidence, imagery of possibilities blooming in her mind. I could use someone who embraces risks. The exchange solidified a mutual understanding, a foundation upon which both could build without the looming specters of apprehension or hidden agendas. But as they parted ways, Sarah's certainty tangled with unwelcome doubt. Could she really weave together her distinct identities without losing herself? The day shifted as they exchanged pleasantries, but beneath the light banter, the weight of that query persisted. Every connection required a delicate dance amidst an expanse of uncertainties. As the afternoon sun began to slide beneath the horizon, Sarah felt the fervent pulse of decision-making within her. The prospect of melding her ambitions with being a mother gnawed at her mind. Something within her shifted. The whirlwind doubts transformed into a commitment to embrace the full spectrum of her identity. Yet lurking just beneath that commitment was a deeper complexity. With every step she took toward defining her professional self, she wondered what could await her beyond the next corner. Would she find the outcomes she sought, or would the very risks she'd embrace pull her into an unanticipated depth that tested her resolve? The unknown loomed persistently. It beckoned her to the precipice of her fears. What awaited her on the other side of this newfound partnership with Jack? The next chapter would hold the answers. She could feel it, and she wasn't about to shy away from stepping boldly into it. The following morning felt heavy with anticipation, the weight of commitments resting on Sarah's shoulders. As she prepared for the day, she stared at her reflection in the mirror. It wasn't just the makeup application that occupied her thoughts. It was the invigorating yet daunting prospect of navigating her budding partnership with Jack. Would she cultivate a successful collaboration, or would the vulnerability she had recently committed to become a point of contention? As she orchestrated the final touches on her appearance, something inside her shifted. It was a blend of nerves and excitement, awakening her sense of initiative. She envisioned an approach where she could merge her professional aspirations with her responsibilities as a mother. But the magnitude of her decision loomed large. How would she juggle these identities without sacrificing either? Arriving at the office, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that today would be transformative. The buzz of activity within the space mirrored her racing thoughts as she settled in. She had a meeting scheduled with Jack later, a face-to-face continuation of their previous conversation. But deeper, more personal questions simmered beneath her surface. What was she willing to reveal about herself, and how would she handle the inevitable scrutiny that could come from such revelations? The hours dripped slowly, taunting her anticipation. During a brief break, Sarah caught the eye of a colleague, Jenna, who was known for her blunt honesty. "You seem distracted today, Sarah. What's on your mind?" Jenna's inquiry pierced through Sarah's turbulent thoughts like a clear bell cutting through fog. "It's nothing," she deflected, instinctively shielding her emotions. Yet beneath the surface, a swell of frustration brewed. "I'm just preparing for a meeting, seeking clarity on a new partnership." Jenna studied her, a knowing smirk hinting at her perception of the deeper context. "You know, it's okay to let people in. It can actually strengthen your position. Sometimes we think we're protecting ourselves by holding back, but often the opposite is true." This wasn't just a casual conversation. It echoed the vulnerability Sarah had acknowledged the day before. She felt her resolve strengthen. "Maybe you're right," she admitted. "It's hard to trust that openness will bring positive results." "What have you got to lose?" Jenna countered, her tone softened to a nurturing cadence. "But it sounds like you might be onto something with Jack. Maybe this is a chance to redefine how you view partnership in both your personal and professional life." With that, a flicker of insight illuminated Sarah's mind. What if she considered Jack not merely as a professional ally, but as a conduit for growing beyond her perceived limitations? She could reclaim her narrative and reshape her relationship with blending her dual roles. The day swept into the meeting, the air thick with unanswered questions and unspoken dynamics. As she entered the conference room, Jack's presence anchored her. His casual confidence and easy smile invited her to relax while simultaneously igniting a spark of resolve. This was not just about business, it was personal. After they exchanged pleasantries, Jack leaned forward, an eagerness igniting his previously composed demeanor. "I've been thinking about our conversation. The way you spoke about vulnerability and risk, there's a unique strength in that perspective." Feeling a rush of adrenaline at the validation, she took a deep breath, her heart pushing her words to the surface. "I believe that to build something meaningful, both in work and life, we have to embrace those uneasy feelings. I've shielded parts of myself for too long." Jack's gaze pierced through her, a glint of recognition dawning on his face. "You're onto something important here. Expanding our limits invites others to do the same." Each word exchanged felt like bricks reinforcing the foundation of their partnership. Yet, with every moment, a nagging thought lingered at the edge of her mind. Was the unfolding dynamic between them venturing into uncharted waters, or would it result in chaos? As the meeting progressed, her strategy became pivotal, driving their partnership to an unexplored depth. But driving forward brought new dilemmas to face. What if Jack's ambition clashed with her values as a mother? The stakes weighed heavily on her, the tension slowly morphing from exhilarating to intimidating. As they concluded their session, Sarah sensed a shift. A strand of something deeper tied them together, and yet uncertainty intermingled with her excitement. She took that first decisive step toward professional growth, but felt the ground beneath her slippery with doubts. What lay ahead required choices of monumental significance. Would she shape her path in a way that harmonized her ambition and responsibilities as a mother? The challenges loomed. With every answer, new questions unfurled, pulling her into the swirling complexity of her dual existence. Was she finally ready to forge a path that authentically reflected her complete identity? Or would the new connections she hoped to cultivate lead her down a road fraught with doubt and discomfort? With the inkling of these possibilities, she couldn't escape the reckoning that awaited her. The moment slipped away, but in its wake lingered the promise of revelation. How far would she go to protect her core values while forging new partnerships? The unpredictability of her journey flickered just out of reach, leaving her poised on the edge of transformation. The days that followed the meeting with Jack were cloaked in uncertainty. Sarah felt as if she were walking a tightrope, teetering between excitement and trepidation. Each moment was a tense balance between her professional aspirations and her commitments at home. Yet in her heart, she entertained the notion that growth might lie in embracing both spheres rather than allowing one to overshadow the other. Back at the office, Sarah found herself increasingly drawn into conversations with Jack. Their discussions morphed from strategy sessions to contemplative exchanges about mutual dreams and vulnerabilities. He had a knack for drawing her out, pushing her to articulate not just her professional vision, but also her fears and longings. Despite the comfort his presence brought, it was both empowering and unsettling. That afternoon, while conducting a routine check on their project updates, she was caught off guard when an unexpected thought chimed in. What if, in being so open, she inadvertently exposed aspects of herself that could be weaponized? The fear of judgment gnawed at her, but it was quickly overshadowed by a flicker of resolve. This was the very essence of her challenge, to be vulnerable without retreating behind the walls she had spent so long constructing. With renewed determination, Sarah devised a plan to blend her professional responsibilities with her role as a mother. Instead of relying solely on traditional childcare, she began to brainstorm a more integrated approach. Could she find ways to include her daughter in her journey? After all, it could serve as a powerful lesson in ambition and balance, a living example of pursuing one's passions while remaining anchored in family. Later that evening, Sarah found herself on the phone with a parenting support group she had previously shunned. As she imparted her thoughts and concerns regarding this new dynamic, the voices on the line offered more than just sympathy. They provided insight. Each person's story interwove with hers, amplifying her resolve. As she spoke, she discovered a newfound belief, a faith that she could indeed carve out a distinctive brand of success that encapsulated both work and home without losing her core identity. The next day was marked by an external pulse of anxiety as Sarah walked into the conference room prepared to share her thoughts on their latest project with Jack. The room felt charged, as if the very air crackled with unarticulated potential. When she began to speak, the words flowed with an unexpected fluidity. She proposed incorporating family-oriented initiatives into their marketing strategy, highlighting their commitment to authenticity, a tie-in with the personal stories that clients cherished. Jack sat, captivated. His interest in her vision was palpable, and his own ideas responded with equal creativity. They engaged in a dynamic exchange, each contributing pieces of a larger puzzle, as if unfurling a map to shared success. Yet beneath the surface, Sarah sensed her fears coiling tightly around the core of her resolve. What if Jack's ambitions and her maternal instincts ignited unbearable conflict? Would he be open to her suggestions, or would he dismiss them as distractions from their ultimate goals? The impending dread of facing a potential rift pressed heavily on her consciousness. As they wrapped up their meeting, Jack reached out, brushing against Sarah's arm with friendly ease. "I'm excited about this direction, Sarah. Your perspective adds depth. I believe we can create something truly groundbreaking." For a moment, their connection became tangible, yet the whisper of doubt lingered. It didn't escape her that she was treading dangerous ground, leaving herself vulnerable to the complexities of their burgeoning collaboration. When she returned home, Sarah's daughter was playing on the floor, blissfully unaware of her mother's mental tug-of-war. As she lowered herself beside her, the little girl looked up and blurted out, "Mommy, are you going to be a boss one day? Like, can I help too?" Struck by her daughter's innocence, Sarah felt a wave of warmth mixed with uncertainty. The gravity of her choices struck her once more. In striving for success, what values would she impart to her child? Was it ambitious aspiration or the supplication of her identity that she was teaching? Tomorrow brought another meeting, another turn on this winding path. Would she assert her vision while keeping her values aligned with her hopes for her family? The question loomed larger than life, turning her confidence into a fragile echo. At that moment, the stakes rose, marooning her somewhere between professional ambition and the essence of motherhood. As the day drew to a close, Sarah realized she was on the threshold of a critical decision point. The next steps could set off reverberations she wasn't yet ready to confront. She would have to navigate these tumultuous waters carefully, or risk losing her balance entirely. What would that mean for her relationship with both Jack and her daughter? The thought danced precariously. Could she truly align her aspirations without sacrificing what mattered most? The answer felt immeasurable, elusive, like a dream fading at daybreak. The morning dawned with a steely resolve, yet Sarah found herself wrestling with the din of her thoughts. She brewed her coffee, inhaling the warm aroma as if it could ease the burgeoning tension in her chest. The familiar ritual felt surreal today, cloaking her uncertainties in a fog of determination. Today was not just another meeting, it was a junction on her personal and professional journey, a test of how well she could carve a path that honored both her ambitions and her identity. Arriving at the office, the melody of keyboards clicking filled the air, and Sarah navigated through the bustling workspace with an inner pulse of anxiety. She was acutely aware of the scrutiny that accompanied ambition, a dual-edged sword that could either elevate her or expose her vulnerabilities. As she approached the conference room, the tension tightened. The stakes had never felt higher. Jack awaited her inside, poised and ready, an eager smile illuminating his features. Despite their growing connection, Sarah felt a sliver of fear at the prospect of unveiling her family-centric proposal. What if he rejected it, viewing it as an afterthought rather than an essential part of their vision? "Morning, Sarah. Ready to shake things up?" Jack's confidence washed over her, yet an undercurrent of doubt remained. She nodded, masking her apprehension with a smile, but the anxiety was palpable in her mind. The meeting commenced, and discussions flowed easily, bouncing from one idea to another. Sarah felt herself settling into the rhythm of the conversation, a simmer of hope mingling with her fears. Then came the moment she had rehearsed, a lull in the dialogue when she would introduce her proposal, willing herself to embrace the vulnerability she so often shunned. Jack, I believe we can elevate our project by integrating family-oriented initiatives into our strategy, she articulated, her voice steady yet laced with anticipation. Families resonate with authenticity, and presenting our own narratives can create a powerful connection with our audience. Jack paused, brow furrowing slightly, the air around him thickening with contemplation. Sarah's heart raced. This was the brink. You're right about the emotional connection, Sarah, he finally replied, his voice calm but measured. But do we risk alienating some of our more traditional clients? I worry about diluting our target message. His concern struck a chord, clashing against her aspirations. But isn't it about expanding our vision? The anxiety knitted tighter in her chest. It's not dilution, it's diversification. This is about vibrant stories that encompass all aspects of life, including family. His gaze remained fixed, weighing her words, and in that moment, Sarah felt a sense of clarity wash over her. Would she shrink back under the weight of doubt, or could she solidify her vision despite resistance? This was not just a professional discussion, it was a revelation of her capability to stand firm with integrity. The meeting continued, and Sarah found herself dismissing fear, channeling it instead into assertiveness. Every counter-argument Jack presented fueled her determination, pushing her to clarify her stance, influencing the narrative not just for the project, but for herself. As they concluded, Jack leaned back and offered a genuine smile. You've got something special here, Sarah. Let's brainstorm further on how we can present this in a way that stays true to our audience. Her chest swelled with a mix of relief and exhilaration. She had managed to hold her ground, to wield her voice in an arena often dominated by numbers and projections. As she left the room, a thought crept in. Was this the beginning of a shift not just in her career, but also within herself? Returning home, Sarah found herself grappling with the weight of her daughter's earlier question. In the soft glow of twilight, she watched the little girl immersed in her crayons, scribbling stories of her own. Mommy, do you think I could help people too? The innocence in her daughter's inquiry struck a deep nerve. Sarah realized that in claiming her right to be ambitious, she was also granting her daughter the freedom to explore her own path. Of course you can, sweetheart. We can make a difference together, she responded, an unexpected conviction surging through her. Yet the road ahead loomed, filled with uncertainties she had yet to confront. Could her newfound courage withstand the complexities of working alongside Jack while also nurturing her roles at home? Tomorrow promised another chapter in this evolving narrative, one where she would have to confront not just professional ambitions, but her deep-rooted beliefs about herself and motherhood. The shadows of doubt resurfaced. Could she embrace both spheres without fracturing her core? With that question hanging palpably in the air, a chilling realization swept over her. The true test was yet to come, a possibly daunting confrontation that could redefine everything she had fought for. The moment awaited her eagerly, a tipping point laden with implications she couldn't fully grasp yet. The next morning rose with an unsettling mix of hope and trepidation. As Sarah sat at the breakfast table, the clinking of dishes drowned out by the whirlpool of her thoughts, she wrestled with her ambition. Today was more than just another day at the office. It was her chance to solidify the benefits of her proposal, to gauge the depth of her influence alongside Jack. Her daughter's innocent query from the previous evening still echoed in her mind, igniting a fierce determination. Could she cultivate an environment at work that embraced the values of family while also pushing the boundaries of their marketing strategy? A momentary smile flickered across her face as she recalled her own childhood dreams, the aspirations she buried beneath the layers of practicality and societal expectations. Upon arriving at the office, the atmosphere felt charged, as though everyone was acutely aware of the implications swirling around them. Sarah knew the meeting with Jack and the rest of the team could either propel her forward or force her to retract into the shadows of doubt. As she entered the conference room, the air was thick with anticipation, and she caught a glimpse of Jack looking especially sharp today, his energy palpable, his whole demeanor a stark contrast to the anxious fluttering in her stomach. "Sarah, just the person I wanted to see," he greeted, his eyes dancing with enthusiasm. "Are you ready to share more about your proposal? I think we might have found a way to bridge some of the concerns from yesterday." A knot of apprehension twisted in her belly. This could either be her moment or another bruise to her confidence. "Yes, I am. I believe I can lay out a vision that encompasses everyone." Despite the tremor of her voice, she stood tall, forcing herself to focus not on the dread, but on the potential impact of their collaboration. As Jack introduced the agenda, she felt her heart rate quicken. Every beat was a reminder of the gravity she placed on this moment. Thoughts flickered through her mind, her daughter's need for a strong role model, the desire to be a voice for unrepresented families in marketing. She could amplify all of that today. A healthy back and forth ensued as Sarah pitched her ideas. Things like including relatable family narratives in their branding and centering marketing around real-life stories that sparked connections. With each point, she witnessed the flickers of interest in her colleagues' eyes, but held her breath for Jack's final verdict. "There's genuine merit in your ideas, but how do we ensure we're not perceived as pandering? Our brand needs to remain authentic," Jack countered, his expression thoughtful yet challenging. Panic struck, but she steeled herself. "Authenticity comes from the heart, Jack. It's not about pandering. It's about bringing to light the story of real people, transcending the norm. We don't become less serious by embracing family. We become more relatable and responsible." Jack raised an eyebrow, a spark of intrigue igniting in his gaze. The shift in the room was tangible. The team members leaned in, absorbing her words with newfound interest. The discussions morphed, a kaleidoscope of ideas reflecting the collective brilliance in the room, and Sarah could feel the ground shifting beneath her. She was not just arguing for her proposal, she was earning the right to shape the organization's identity alongside Jack. After the meeting, Jack approached her. "You articulated your vision just right. Let's work together to refine it further for our presentation next week." A wave of exhilaration washed over her, paired with the weight of responsibility. This was more than just a step in her career. She was charting a course for her future, finding her voice not just as a creator, but as a leader. Later, as she returned home, exhaustion mingled with triumph. She spotted her daughter, still at the table scribbling furiously. A protective instinct surged through Sarah, realizing she was authoring more than just stories. She was crafting her narrative. "Mommy, look! I made a new story about our adventures," her daughter exclaimed, eyes sparkling. Sarah knelt alongside her, a wave of recognition surfacing within her. "Can you tell me about it?" The innocent enthusiasm ignited within reminded Sarah once again. Every daring leap she took now resonated with her daughter's ability to explore a world of possibilities. Yet a nagging doubt began to settle in the corners of Sarah's mind. Could she teach her daughter everything she needed to navigate this new life? The thought hung heavy as she glanced at the unfinished sketches. There would be challenges ahead, financial implications, and potential conflicts of interest that could threaten both her proposal and her family dynamic. The road was uncertain, each choice culminating in a new moral quandary. Tomorrow, she would have to confront not just external doubts, but the underlying fears buried deep within her. Were her ambitions ultimately reconcilable with her duties as a mother? The impending discussion with Jack next week loomed like an approaching storm, and whether it would bring clarity or chaos remained to be seen. The next morning dawned with a clarity Sarah had never felt before. The apprehension that had shadowed her expectations morphed into a sense of purpose. She stood before the mirror, not just recognizing her reflection, but embracing the woman she was becoming, a professional on the cusp of achieving her ambitions while fiercely guarding the heart of her identity as a mother. Arriving at the office, the bustling atmosphere felt electric, charged with anticipation for the impending presentation. Today, she would share her refined proposal, a culmination of her professional insights and maternal wisdom. The significance of this moment weighed heavily on her, yet amidst nerves, there was exhilaration that fueled her resolve. Entering the conference room, Sarah's heart raced with every beat. Jack was already there, looking ready to conquer, collating notes and flipping through materials. She noticed how his eagerness mirrored her own. There would be no hiding today. She had to step fully into her power. "Are you ready?" Jack's grin was disarming, his eyes shining with possibility. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, summoning an air of confidence despite the pang of self-doubt swirling within. As they presented their vision, Sarah felt a transformation unfolding. Each comment she made drew lively engagement from the team, who leaned in as though drinking from a wellspring of newfound ideas. They discussed how to integrate authentic family narratives into the branding, correlating emotional connections with their target audience, while retaining the company's core values. Jack's enthusiastic responses encouraged her to push their discussion further, providing her with validation that ignited something powerful within. This was not just a work obligation, it was an assertion of her identity, her dual roles colliding into something beautiful and cohesive. "Let's build a visual campaign that reflects these narratives," Sarah proposed, fueled by the burgeoning trust she felt in the room. "When families see themselves in our brand, it reinforces their belief in our authenticity." Jack nodded. "That's a great hook. Authenticity in our visuals could set us apart in the market." As they delved deeper, Sarah found her rhythm, each insight building upon the last, transforming the energy in the room. It was a dance of intellect and passion where both she and Jack could shine, illuminating the path forward for the team. When the meeting concluded, a wave of relief washed over her, accompanied by a profound sense of achievement. Jack turned to her, a smile breaking across his face. "Sarah, that was impressive. You brought something genuinely fresh. I can see it resonated with everyone." With that praise, the final pieces of her insecurities began to fall away. This was more than just recognition. It was validation that she could thrive in the corporate world without sacrificing who she was as a mother. Each acknowledgement felt like a stepping stone on the path to establishing a definitive identity, a blending of ambition and nurturing. Returning home that evening, her heart swelled with pride. As she walked through the door, Emily looked up from her art station, her innocent eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Mommy, how was your big meeting? Did you tell them about your new ideas?" "Even better, sweetheart," Sarah replied, kneeling beside her. "I shared stories and ideas, and everyone was excited." Emily beamed, her joy infectious. "Can you show me the stories? Maybe I can help." Sarah's heart soared. In that moment, she realized she was not just crafting her narrative, she was paving the way for her daughter's future as well. "Of course, I'd love for us to collaborate," she said, her voice rich with enthusiasm as she pulled Emily into her embrace. Days passed, and the momentum of their proposal unfolded into a successful initial rollout. The synergy between Sarah and Jack not only propelled their project, but transformed the underlying dynamics of their professional relationship. Jack began to value her perspective more profoundly, often highlighting her insights in meetings and actively seeking her input in decision-making processes. With each interaction, Sarah felt herself growing, her confidence solidifying as she proved her mettle in the arena of business and motherhood. Then one afternoon, as they prepared for a follow-up meeting with the team, Jack turned to her, a sense of appreciation in his tone. "I couldn't have done this without your unique vision. You've pushed us to see the bigger picture." The subtle praise glowed like a beacon of validation. Sarah beamed, feeling recognized, fulfilled, and heavy with a sense of belonging, not just in her work, but in her identity. As the project gained traction and began receiving accolades, external validation reflected her growth. Media outlets lauded their innovative approach, applauding the authentic family narratives they wove into their brand. Feedback from clients flooded in, affirming the resonance they had created within their target audience. Finally, one evening, as Sarah wrapped up a long day at the office, she walked into her home, her heart resonating with an unshakable confidence. The pang of ambition harmonized with her role as a mother. Together, they forged her identity in beautiful unison. Emily sat at the table, drawing pictures, each stroke spewing creativity and freedom. "Mommy, will you help me with my story tomorrow?" "Absolutely," Sarah replied, a heartfelt smile spreading across her lips. "Together, we'll create the best adventure." In that moment, Sarah understood she had come full circle. She had conquered her fears, embraced her dual roles, and merged them into a cohesive identity rich with promise. She stood poised on the precipice of either leaving behind limits or creating a legacy for her daughter, etched in the stories they would continue to write together. This was her true achievement, not just in the boardroom, but in the linkage of her ambitions and her heart, in crafting a life that encapsulated both success and love. Now is your moment to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire personal triumphs like Sarah's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your appreciation for stories that resonate. Comment below with your thoughts on Sarah's incredible journey and how she overcame her struggles. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. You need to spread this message. Don't wait even one more second.